Well, welcome to another one of my interviews. As an instructor for UCLA, I love talking to people about topics that are important and pertinent to what you're learning in the UCLA College Counseling Certificate Program. I'm very privileged and honored to have with me today one of my former students, and she and I are going to talk about transition. Annie, I'm so glad to have you here today.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
So tell us a little bit about yourselves. Let people know, tell us about your background and your educational background.
Yeah, so my name's Annie Jones. I'm a fourth year senior at California State University in Monterey Bay. I graduate this May and I'm really excited. I'm an environmental studies major with a concentration of in sustainable communities, and I'm a double minor in environmental health policy and global studies. I applied to CSUMB from Exeter Union High School, so I went to public school all throughout my education, including now. CSUMB drew me in because of their environmental studies program. I initially actually wanted to be an English teacher, and I went to a seminar about that, and I decided, maybe that's not for me. And then I found environmental studies, which was an intersectional field that made me really excited because it brought in the science that I love, climate change, and different fields like social justice. So it was really interesting to me. And currently, I am in the process of applying to a master's program in city planning at a UC, a couple different state schools, and one out-of-state university. And I'm really excited for those opportunities.
So you're looking forward to those next steps in your journey,
Yes.
journey, right?
Mm-hmm.
So tell us a little bit, explain a little bit more about your high school and what it was like.
High school for me was pretty solid, no major complaints. I did well academically. I had extracurriculars. I had a great group of friends, some of which I'm so great friends with today. And high school, in hindsight, there's a lot of things in the high school system that could definitely be improved on, but overall I had a good experience and I felt prepared for college because I was an AP student. As an AP student, I was prepared for the rigor of upper division college courses, whereas lower division college courses that fit your general education requirements, a lot of those were a lot more work, but a lot less difficult work. So the amount of work and rigor of AP had me prepared for all of those things. And I definitely appreciated that out of my AP experience, although AP is very, very difficult. It's a lot of time, it's a lot of effort, and you have to make sure you want to do it before doing an AP class. So it was really helpful for me to have had that experience, and it also gave me some units where I would have had the opportunity to graduate early, but I chose not to because I would have had to take a full course load of 15 to 17 units every semester in order to graduate early. And because about a third of my college experience was online due to COVID, I decided to go for all 4 years because financially I was able to afford that.
Yeah. And when you say you could have graduated early, it's because of the units that you earned in AP could be applied to your college. Now, your high school only offered AP. They didn't have IB program. Did a lot of your friends take classes at the community college?
Not really. Exeter doesn't offer a ton of those classes. There is a dual enrollment English class. I don't know if they still run it, but they ran a dual enrollment English class. I think it started when I was a freshman or sophomore, and I didn't take that class. I opted for AP literature instead. But there's also a couple of dual enrollment ag courses. Like I think used to be like a dual enrollment like welding class, and I took a dual enrollment floral design class. So I know it is possible to do it outside. I knew one person that did both, but within the high school, the options are fairly limited for enrolling in college at the same time.
How many AP classes did you have available to you to choose from?
Ooh,
just approximately.
think about nine, maybe 10, pretty fairly limited compared to other schools, but Exeter is a really small high school. One of my roommates went to a very large, very academically driven high school that boasted like 45 AP classes, and we just don't have the student body or the funding to have that many AP courses.
And how many did you take?
I took AP literature, AP language and composition, physics, statistics, and government. I took the AP bio exam, but I didn't take the class because it wasn't offered the year I took it, but I passed the exam because I tutored outside with the teacher that usually teaches AP bio. And I took a zoology botany class with her at the same time. And because she knew I was going to take the AP exam, she made sure to put some AP level labs in the class specifically for me that, to my knowledge, nobody else knew about. So that was really helpful that she would do that specifically to help me pass. And I miss her. She was the best life science bio teacher I could have asked for.
That's great. That's great. So it sounds like the AP helped you prepare for college in terms of the rigor and the curriculum. What other things did you find when you went from high school to college? What was the easiest part of going from high school to college?
I think the easiest part was I think the school part was the easiest part. Like socially wasn't too hard for me because I'm willing to just kind of go up to talk to my classmates, and I would just talk to people while we were walking back from class because one of my classes was really far from the dorms. So there was this group of freshmen walking to and from class every day, and I would talk to them. And the school part, I think, was the easiest part because I'd been in the rhythm of being in school for years. So jumping back in at a different level was doable for me because I had the AP rigor. I was used to that. And like my freshman year was relatively easy course load. I had a lot more units than I'm taking now, but because they were lower level courses, I could manage more of that. But taking 15 to 17 units of upper division courses is a lot more challenging. So the fact that I could do that earlier and let me get my GEs done pretty early gave me the advantage of starting upper div classes early. I started upper divisions as a sophomore. So I was able to reduce my course load for the rest of my experience, which has kept me a lot more sane and given me a lot more time because I'm not just constantly working and just doing my best to keep everything together academically.
Yeah, you feel like you have time to do other things. And because I know you have a job on campus that connects to your major and, those kinds of things. Yeah. So what was the hardest part about transitioning from high school to college? And you started just before the pandemic, right?
I did. Yeah. I started in fall of 2019. The hardest moments of college for me were the first weekend I moved in, because it was the first time in my life I'd ever been completely alone. And my roommate had family in the area. So she packed her stuff into the dorm, like put everything in her dresser, got her bed ready, and left. And I didn't see her again for a couple of days. So that few hours before I met up with somebody I'd met online before college was really difficult. And then the second semester of freshman year, I was having a hard time with my mental health. So that semester was a little bit difficult until I got home and kind of had my own personal space. That helps a lot. But like the hardest part with college, even now, is taking time for myself to do things just for me, taking care of myself. And I've gotten a lot better about not just grinding it out constantly and making sure I stop. Say it's 9:30. I do my best to never work past 9:30 if I don't need to, and just managing my time well enough that I can still get ready for bed and play some video games by myself or with my friends, hang out with my roommates, just do things I like to do. So school is not the only thing I'm doing besides my job.
Good. So how did you come to that point to learn how to do that, Annie?
I think the biggest thing I can pinpoint is two things. Both happened in my second semester of my second year of college. I was going to graduate early, and one of my friends from home asked me, "Why do you want to graduate early?" And I couldn't give him a straightforward answer. So I was at the time taking like 15 units, and I talked to my advisor, realized I would still graduate on time if I reduced my course load. So I dropped a class for the semester before the add drop date, so I wouldn't take a W on my transcript. And that same semester, I was in my upper division required writing course, which was very difficult, very time consuming. And you spent the entire semester writing one really long research paper. And there were times where I was hanging out, this was during the pandemic, so during online school, I would be in like a Discord call with my friends, and they would tell me to just stop working and go play some games because I'd been working at this paper for hours. So just kind of that realization that I need to manage my time differently, where it's okay to stop working and it's okay to turn in the best paper you can at the moment. You don't have to put in 110% into every assignment if you just don't have the bandwidth. Mm-hmm. It's okay if everything isn't perfect. And I had to kind of learn that the hard way after just ending up completely exhausted and getting called out by my friends that could see how tired I was and telling me to just stop for a minute and just do something fun, stop doing school, and take time for myself.
And that self-care is such an important aspect, and it goes along with your emotional, your mental health, social aspects, which are a big part of college as well, right? Mm-hmm. So what about your friends? What have you noticed and observed in terms of how your friends have handled transitioning into college? And especially you guys had to do an additional transition because you started college and then you had to go to online and then you had to transition back. So what has that been like?
I would say it's been a mixed bag from what I've observed. I handled it pretty well, but that's because I kind of sit down and bear it. And I prefer in-person school, but I function just fine online. Like if I had to go online again, I could do it and be just fine. My grades were not impacted by online school. But with my friends that are younger than me, last year was the first year we were fully online. So on campus, it was kind of like having two freshman classes because the sophomores and the freshmen were all new. So it was like having two freshman classes socially around, just kind of deer in the headlights, don't really know what's going on, just getting their bearings, and that's totally fine. Like I was a freshman too, I've been there. I don't appreciate the freshman slander that people do sometimes. Like everyone was a freshman once. And that I have seen just kind of lack of experience in just kind of, I guess being an adult is the best way I can word it, just kind of being independent, doing your own thing, that sort of thing. And academically, it was also a mixed bag. Some of my friends had a very, very difficult time with lockdown, both school-wise and just emotionally. So a lot of people's grades I know suffered. I'm very lucky that I did not fall into that I did just fine online, but I know a lot of people did not have that experience. And the transition is just so stark once you go from being on campus to the coming back to school. Just back and forth a lot is just it takes a relatively big toll. And I'm lucky that I have a good support system with my friends and my parents and my sibling, that I did okay because my brother was also here. He was here during lockdown, so there's the two of us. And it's just I wish that things were different. And I'm very fortunate that I got some time on campus before that happened. Like, I think I would have been in a very different position had I had to start my freshman year of college online compared to my sophomore year. I think it would have been a lot harder that way than if I hadn't already had a little bit of experience under my belt.
Yeah, I know a lot of people opted to just kind of take that year off for that exact reason. Trying to do freshman year online was really, really tough. So what would you recommend, as a student? What would, we're all counselors, we're all training, we all work with students. What can we do to help students be better prepared to transition from high school to college?
I think first off, asking students, like, if they're ready, like, if you're not ready to go to college, it's not worth spending the money to go. I was ready, but I know quite a few people who dropped out because they weren't ready, and it'll save you. If you're not ready, that's okay. You can take time before you can go to college, because I saw those people that were struggling because they weren't happy and they didn't want to be there. And it's not worth the emotional toll they'll take on you and the financial burden, especially if you're going to go to a school that isn't a community college. And I did not go to community college, but I talked to a lot of transfer students, and they say like community college was a great experience for them. That might be a great option if you still want to go to school, but if you're not quite ready to go all the way to a 4-year, that's probably a great choice. And just making sure you evaluate, are the students ready to go? And the biggest advice I would have to those students and to helping those students is making sure they know it's okay to not put in 130% at all times. That will be even more exhausting in college than it is in high school. I know it's hard in high school, but it's even harder in college because the classes are more difficult. And go to class. Just go, even if you don't want to go. Just go to class and do all of your work, and just doing those two things, you will have a good GPA. Bare minimum, you will probably have B's just from showing up every day and participating in class and doing your work. Just getting those students in the rhythm of just doing it will make things a lot easier in the long term.
And that's such it seems like a simple thing. And the temptation is, oh, I don't have to go to class today.
Yeah.
I'll skip it. I'll talk to my friend who has notes or whatever. And then that never happens. So
yeah,
I think that's very, very good wisdom. And I love also your point about self-care and not worrying about not being anxious because you haven't done 110%, that you're still able to move forward and turn in assignments or whatever without 110%. So
there's a lot of assignments. Then yes, the points do build up, but if you miss a couple points on a couple of assignments, you will probably be fine. And I know a lot of high school teachers and even some counselors in high school will tell you like, oh, college professors don't care. College professors are so mean. That has not at all been my personal experience. I know it does happen at other institutions, but at a smaller school, professors are there because they care. They want you to do well, and you will be able to tell in the first couple of weeks if your professor actually cares. So the whole, oh, college professors don't care, they're just a number, that's not true a lot of the time. And getting to know your professors is also very valuable. Just have a little conversation with them after class or go to office hours, even if you don't need to go. I didn't do this very often, but going to office hours to get to know your professors will help you if you need help from them. And then it's great to have those resources in your pocket when it comes to applying to grad school or jobs, to have letters of reference.
Yeah, I think that's very sage advice. And I think it's important that people do that. And this is one of the things I recommend for my students. I think we as counselors do is go before you need it. Like you can't suddenly get a tutor the night before you have this huge midterm exam. The kind of thing is you build those relationships ahead of time and just go to see them and talk to them. So I think that's really, really key. So what's the largest, so you, just to remind everybody, you're at California State University, Monterey Bay. What's the largest class you've had, Annie?
I think it was like 85 people in one lecture hall. I know there are much bigger classes than mine. It was a introductory oceanography class. It was a case study on the Monterey Bay, which was also it's an equivalent to an intro oceanography class. I know like the actual intro oceanography class and anything that's necessary bio and chem classes for the STEM majors, the harder STEM majors are very large and they're in the bigger lecture halls. But that class tends to be kind of like a GE prereq for some majors. I had to take it for my major. So that was why it was a little bit bigger, but there are significantly larger classes than mine.
And what's the smallest class that you've had?
8 people, myself included. Was it 8? I think it might have started with 9 and we ended with 6. It was a very small class. It was religion, violence, and peacemaking class that I took for my global studies major because or my global studies minor. It was the only class offered that semester that I could take. And it was definitely an interesting class, a little bit out of my wheelhouse, but I was also doing research into Israel-Palestine at the time. So I was wondering if that might give me some helpful background information on what I was working on, even though my actual research was completely unrelated to like the religious side of Israel-Palestine. But it was an interesting class, and it was me, global studies majors, and then a lot of peace studies minors, which I didn't even know was a minor until then. So that was fun to find out.
That's nice. Well, and that I think that demonstrates the value of those smaller institutions, because I know when I've asked that same class of students who are students at like, for example, University of California, Santa Barbara, their smallest class was 1,100 students. I mean, they no one even fit in the same room. So I asked him, like, how do you, and this is before COVID, how do you even see the professor? He told me, I don't. I sit in a room and I see the professor on a video screen. I'm not in the same room with my professor. So yeah, that's a huge difference. So, so just one other question I have for you, Annie, when in your experience now that you're back and, you're a senior this year, what over those last 2 or 3 years, what has been the most common mental health challenge that your friends have, or you or your friends have experienced? What are the things that you've noticed the most?
3 things: depression, anxiety, and just kind of like the gifted kid issue of like a matter of self-worth within your grades, and just being terrified of whether or not you're going to do well on any assignment ever. Those 2 things definitely. I fall into mostly just depression and then worrying about my grades, but I've relaxed on that a lot because I know if I put in enough effort, I can get the grades I need. But I don't need to put in 150% if I'm going to get full credit on the assignment, even if I don't put in full effort, which might sound like bad advice. My mom doesn't like hearing that one, but if you don't need to push yourself super hard to get a good grade, it's okay. Like there's no point in putting 150% if you put in 90% and you're going to get the same grade. It's just not worth your time, because extra credit in college does not come by that way. And unless it explicitly states in the assignment criteria that you will get extra credit by doing that, you're probably not going to get it. Right.
So if the requirement is a 3-page paper or 6-page paper, whatever, doing a 15-page paper isn't going to increase your grade.
Yeah, like page limits and word limits and minimums, they actually matter in college. You will get in trouble for writing too much. I know that doesn't always happen in high school, but they will dock you points for writing too much. I tend to be a long-winded writer. Like my personal statement that I turned in for University of Colorado Denver was 999 words, and the limit was 1,000 words. So make sure you keep it within the page limit. Like that's biggest advice for writing. Follow the prompts and keep it within the page limit and you will be fine. You'll probably at least pass.
Very good. No, I totally agree with you. As an instructor, I'm very cognizant. I have these word limits for a reason. So, so that's very true. Annie, thank you so much.
Very long-winded writer.
Well, I was one of those too. If it was a 3-page, I'd usually end up doing 6. Whatever it was, I ended up doubling it. So yeah, I totally get that. So, all right, Annie, thank you very much. Any other final parting words of or thoughts you want to share?
Good luck and take care of yourself. That's the biggest thing, is take care of yourself. Your grades do matter. If you do want to go on to graduate school, if you're unsure about it, just keep up your grades. You're not going to regret having good grades as a freshman. Even if it seems like those are throwaway courses, they still will matter in the end. So just go to class, do your work, and take care of yourself.
Great. I think those are great words of wisdom. Thank you so much, Annie.
Thank you.